I'm Captain Chuck Dyer, and today I'm joined by Captain Scott Stratton, Chairman of the FedEx Master Executive Council, and Captain Scott Larsen, Chairman of the Negotiations Committee. I'd like to start with you, Scott. Can you bring us up to date on the current state of negotiations?
Certainly. I think everybody's aware that the 2011 contract was a 2-year contract. It had a special provision to continue contractual discussions during interim talks. We just concluded those 24 months of interim talks, and we are entering Section 6 early on January 22nd. Our amendable date is February 25th, 2013.
How would you characterize what's been achieved in this process?
You know, during the interim discussions, we've far exceeded our expectations in the interim talks. We've passed actual contractual language in multiple sections of the contract, and we have narrowed the gap. So when we enter Section 6 in February, we'll be ready to conclude these talks in a timely manner.
What sections have been discussed at this point?
So far, during the interim talks, we've discussed various sections. Sections like 5, which is traveling expenses, 8, deadheading, 11, training, Section 24, which is filling of vacancies, how we bid, Section 25, scheduling, along with Section 26, which is our general section, which is also where things like jump seats and uniform allowances reside, and Section 28, which is retirement.
Okay, well, this is a big question, so I'm a little hesitant to ask, but I'm going to go ahead anyway. Of those sections, which issues are still open?
The goal of the interim talks was to narrow the gap. We haven't formally concluded any sections at this point, and that was never our goal. It was to narrow the gap between our position and the companies. There are some, in those sections that we talked about, there are some issues that are still outstanding in deadheading, things like class of service and some other deadheading issues, but we are close to conclusion in several of these sections.
How would you describe the company's proposals in these sections?
Well, Chuck, I don't think it's a surprise to anybody that the company's in a cost-saving mode. They've made those statements both publicly and privately, and their proposals reflect that. But we're not here to negotiate in the short term. Our proposals are realistic, focused, and fair. Our proposals reflect accurately what our pilots bring to the bottom line of the corporation, and we're here to negotiate a long-term contract.
Okay, with that being said, what are the major differences at this point between the company's positions and ours?
One of our goals that we heard through the surveys, through hub turn meetings, and every time we talk to crew members, is that they want to see tightening of contractual language, they want to see improvements to quality of life, and improvements to compensation. Things that should pay, must pay. And that's what we're focusing on. The company is in a cost-cutting mode in the short term. We're here to negotiate long-term contracts.
Okay, Scott, that gets us to where we are at this point. What sections remain to be opened?
Some of the obvious sections: compensation, Section 3. Section 4, which is minimum guarantees. Section 12, hours of service. And one of the other big ones is Section 27, insurance. Everything else is in play at this time.
Over to you, Scott Stratton. How can our members keep abreast of the current state of negotiations?
Well, we're going to be doing everything we can to provide them the information that they need. We're going to be doing that with much of it coming out of the 2013 Unity Initiative. First, they're going to see a much increased hub presence by not only the officers but the negotiating team. We are also initiating the Unity team meetings that we started in 2009 that are going to be small group lunches at AOC, to not only provide information to keep them informed, but also listen to their concerns as well and to answer those questions. We're also going to be initiating a weekly negotiating update, if you will, which will either come in the form of a Q&A, the chairman Q&A, information directly from Scott's team or from the officers on specific negotiating issues that are being looked at the time. All that is to do just what you said, Chuck, which is to provide them the opportunities to stay informed and to stay engaged throughout this process.
Do you believe, Scott, that this could be wrapped up by summer?
You know, it could be. There's two sides to every negotiations, and I think that we're ready to make the aggressive take the aggressive steps, aggressive meaning resources, where Scott's team's ready, our SMEs are ready, subject matter experts, our subcommittees are ready to do just that. But like I said, it takes two sides. It would require a significant increase in enthusiasm from FedEx to accomplish that. It's also, Chuck, important to realize that in most negotiations, things happen in the end game very quickly on the big money items. We saw that in 2006, and we've seen it in some of the industry contracts lately. So the answer is we could, but it would definitely take renewed enthusiasm from the FedEx side.
Scott, any final thoughts for today?
There are. Stay engaged and stay focused. There are no sidelines in this negotiation. You need to get your information from reliable sources. When you hear rumors out on the crew bus, use your reasonable man filter and think what is reasonable. Get your answers from reliable sources.
Okay, Scott Stratton, any final words?
Yeah, Chuck, I think just like all negotiations, it's what Scott said is important. Avoid noise, avoid distractions, go directly to the source, and we're going to do everything we can to provide that. We also, as Scott mentioned earlier, our negotiations are focused on the issues that are important to FedEx pilots that we receive through the surveys. They're also realistic based on the long-term profitability of the corporation, and they're fair, which is our contributions to that long-term profitability. We're in good shape, and at times we're going to be counting on the pilots because, as we've said many times, the FedEx management involved with the negotiations look past Scott's team, they look past my team, they look past the MEC and the committees, and they look to the pilots. So we're going to need your help.
Well, I'd like to thank you guys for stopping by today and taking the time to do this. And to all of you out there, remember, stay informed, stay engaged.